Greetings, YouTube. I don't know if you've ever been in a crowd during an emergency, but if you find yourself in that situation and you need someone to contact 911, emergency services, don't just say, someone call 911, because no one will call 911. Everyone in the crowd will just assume that someone else will do it. If you want to get emergency services to your location, you need to find one person, you point at them and you say, you call 911 in a forceful, direct, and explicitly individual manner. And guess what? They'll do it. Now you could be asking yourself, why am I telling you this? Well, it's useful to know. It could actually save somebody's life, possibly even someone that you love. But I can't find myself thinking about it this weekend because I was in a discussion over the course of the weekend, and actually a number of them, dealing with the nature of taxation. And I encountered a couple of people that had the, I want to say mistaken belief, but the belief that taxation is theft. Now, I don't believe this. There's a number of reasons I don't believe this. I'll get to them in a minute. But every time I've ever encountered someone that says taxes are theft, they have been from a first world nation, most often from the U.S. And as such, they have benefited from an education that was publicly funded. They drive on publicly funded roads, which are lit by publicly funded streetlights. Their food is kept safe by publicly funded inspectors and laws, organizations, departments. They are defended on the streets by publicly funded police and firemen. And they are defended on the national level by publicly funded military. They are, in effect, under the effects of the public trust every minute of every day, and they have been since they were born. And as long as they stay inside the United States and we don't become a complete and utter collapsed nation, they'll continue to do so until they die. And yet, one day they wake up and they see their paycheck or they look at their property taxes and something makes them say, I'm being robbed! Even though they've been reaping the benefits of those taxes every minute of every day. Now, when I say something like this, either here on a video or on a channel somewhere, on a message board, email, it doesn't matter, I usually get one of two responses. The first is that services should be paid for as you use them, a very libertarian point of view. And the second is that you should engage in paying into the public trust on a voluntary basis. Now, the first point, how do you know when you're going to need the service? I don't know from day to day which services I'm going to use that are currently being funded by the public trust. Police and fire department come to mind the most readily, though actually quite possibly street plowing might, because we're coming into the snow season here in New England. But how do I pay for those? Do I get out and hand money to the guy driving the plow truck? If my house starts to burn down, and the fire department, I call them and they show up, do I hand them my credit card right there as they show up in front of my burning house? Or do they save my burning house and then they bill me later for hundreds of thousands of dollars? And what if my neighbor doesn't pay them when his house is on fire, thus placing my house in fire, at risk of being on fire? Of course, libertarians will probably tell you that you could just roll the coverage for your fire department into your home insurance. So instead of me sending tax dollars to my government to pay for the firemen, I will be sending my money to a private corporation who will make a profit off of those monies and then fund the firemen. Well, seeing as I consider healthcare for profit to be unethical, immoral, and barbaric, I think firemen for profit is unethical, immoral, and barbaric. We've tried private fire departments here in the United States before. There's a reason we don't use them any longer. Now, as far as the concept of being a completely voluntary system where you give money to the public trust when you think you should. See that window behind me? If I stuck my head out that window right now and screamed out to the world, "Someone pay for the fire department!" how many people do you think are going to queue up to do that? Even though it's in their best interest to pay for the fire department. That's screaming into the night, or dim morning, would be the same thing as yelling into that crowd, "Someone call 911." Everyone's going to look around and assume that the next guy is going to do it. So I pay into the public trust the way I think I should pay into the public trust. Through taxation. Everybody pays because everybody should. Now, you could argue that there are some people that aren't paying enough. The top 2% of our bracket here in America are paying way too little in taxes. I believe that the current rate is 36%, which is probably about what half of it should be. And for those who are going to tell me that a 70 or 72% tax rate will cost us jobs in America, I call bull. Because you see, when the wealthy get tax breaks, do you know what they do with that money? They either put it into a bank account or they invest it overseas. They don't create jobs with it. We have historical evidence to show this. Like all those tax cuts were given by the Bush administration where there was absolute zero net job growth for the entire time he was in power. Yeah, those tax breaks didn't get us any jobs at all. And at the moment, the corporations in America are sitting on $1.5 trillion of capital. That's trillion dollars of capital. They're not hiring anybody right now, folks. Why is that? So, if we had a more equitable tax breakdown, where the rich paid what they should, and, for example, corporations paid anything at all, we'd be doing a whole lot better. Of course, reducing the military spending would help a great deal as well. And if we had a single-payer healthcare system so that corporations got out of that business and stopped raping Americans for the very vital things they need to survive, we'd be better off again. But of course, I'm going to be told how wrong I am. I'm used to it. People tell me I'm wrong every day. And you know something? They never convinced me that that is true. So, I don't like taxes either. It would be great if we didn't have to pay them. But we have to pay into the public trust so that the public trust can take care of us, the public. It isn't a really hard concept to understand, in my opinion. But some people are motivated by personal interest more than public interest. I don't have an argument for that. I care about my neighbors, I guess, more than some people do. I don't know if that makes me better or worse, smarter, dumber. I'm not sure. But I do know that I like the fact that the police and the fire department and the Coast Guard and the military all get the cut out of the public fund that I am paying into.